Hey, you geeks! I'm finally getting around to answering your questions. I had to get this out this week since next week is Lent and a third of you are probably giving up social media. So you'll be happy to know that watching my channel totally doesn't count as social media. I'll be donating whatever income I get from this channel to my CRS Rice Bowl this year. On to the questions. I am Shoden asks, I am curious, why do you pronounce dragon as dragon? Is it a dialect thing? I love that they put an E after the A because until this comment, I wasn't aware that I dragged that vowel too badly.
Dragon, not lizard.
This comment came from an earlier video, but many of you asked about my accent. I drag my vowels because I'm from Minnesota. This is also probably why I'm so gosh darn positive all the time. I spent a good deal of time in northern Minnesota where people actually talk like this.
So that was Mrs. Lundegaard on the floor in there. And I guess that was your accomplice in the wood chipper.
The Coen brothers get this so right. I'm just super jazzed that 1,000 people can actually understand what I am saying. Mary Treaty asks, what hobbies do you have outside of reading? And lastly, what is your favorite food to bite into? Outside of reading, I play steel drum cellos in a community band, and we play local venues during the summer. My favorite food to bite into is fresh corn on the cob. Though I hope your jaw heals before July, which is the best time to get corn here. Theodore has 3 questions. What trends do you like and dislike in modern fantasy? What other genres do you enjoy reading? Notable non-fantasy faves? Pride and Prejudice, 1995 or 2005. First, I do like that women are going on more adventures nowadays. The typical farm boys were just too dull for my tastes, and I was always more of an active heroine than a passive pretty princess. My first writings generally consisted of creating a hero's younger sister who tagged along and was, in hindsight, a total Mary Sue. I am disappointed, therefore, that Hollywood hasn't found a better way to incorporate women into action than my grade school dabbles in fiction. Heroic women in pop culture are shown to be predominantly buff, athletic warriors, skills which, I admit, men are better at generally than women. If Sam Gamgee was a hero for accompanying Frodo to Mordor, cooking food along the way, and being positive without being a warrior,
Your bodyguard is Gardner.
then why can't a woman be heroic for showing the same traits? I think many young women, myself included, have questions about what it means to be strong. And if physical strength is the answer, many of us will believe ourselves weak when that is not the case. For your second question, I like to read period drama, whether from the period itself, like Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, or contemporary works like Arthur Golden's Memoirs of a Geisha, so long as the modern author doesn't inflict too much of a modern Western worldview on their characters. Having medieval peasants spout the latest postmodern philosophy only works in a comedy. For your third question, I saw Pride and Prejudice 2005 first and prefer it. It's just a beautiful film and doesn't rely on Mr. Darcy swimming to create tension. You see, I first saw Colin Firth as the father in What a Girl Wants, so I have a very hard time thinking of him as hot. Kid You Not has several questions. Who or what was Lucifer, the son of the morning? This is probably a reference to my dive into Paradise Lost, which I'm still working on and will let you know when I find out. What's your background? Are you a teacher, an academic? My background for this channel is I have a degree in Catholic Studies, which is not a degree in theology, but more of philosophy and art. This training has very little to do with my day job, so I had to find an outlet for it. The first drafts of my series on Full Metal Alchemist and the Seven Deadly Sins were doodled on the sides of my notes in my Divine Comedy class. I also hated that poem at first, but now that I found a way to make it fun, I can enjoy it. Academia is far too uppity and serious for the likes of me. How will you rank the Wheel of Time books you've read so far? I will do a definitive ranking video on the Wheel of Time when I finish the series. The hard thing about ranking these books is that Jordan, especially in his later series, didn't write great books so much as great stories, which contain a large number of tedious scenes punctuated by brilliance. The best book I've read so far has to be The Dragon Reborn. The plot is a short fuse leading to a large explosion, literally in Matt's case, followed closely by The Fires of Heaven. As for the rest, I'll let you know in June. Which should I read first, Mistborn or The Silmarillion? If you like Tolkien, then start with The Silmarillion. It's hard to read, especially at the beginning, but it's the epitome of high fantasy, which I presume you would like if you like Tolkien. Mistborn is about as far away from high fantasy and Tolkien as you can get, and still be in the otherworldly, hard magic system fantasy subgenre. Although Mistborn: The Final Empire is a light read, I highly recommend reading the entire First Era in a marathon because early Sanderson was not as good as he is now at writing self-contained stories in one book. Greg Hearn asks, also 3 questions. If I melt dry ice, can I go swimming without getting wet? Where did you come up with the idea to use an animated version of yourself for your videos? What was or is your most treasured item or memory from childhood? I think it would take a lot of dry ice, but sure, go swimming in carbon dioxide vapor. Sounds fun. I looked at channels like Overly Sarcastic Productions, Hello Future Me, and to a certain extent, Super Carlin Brothers. I wanted a channel that tackled big subjects, but in a fun way. Having an animated avatar seemed the best way to instantly convey that message. Also, my avatar never has a bad hair day. I'm so glad you asked about treasured item from childhood because it gives me an excuse to tell my Lopin origin story. Before I got Lopin a few years ago, I had Woofy. Creative, I know. But I got her in 2nd grade for Easter, right around my obsession with Balto. I had also moved into a new bedroom that was scary, and Woofy stood guard for 10 years, defending me from whatever evils lurked in the shadows. The dark one, probably. Woofy has since retired from most public appearances, and Lopin has taken over as emotional support animal. I'm terribly allergic to all animals with fur and hair, so conventional pets are out of the question for me. Kaya Reads asks, how did you get introduced to the Cosmere? And another, what's an overdone trope you can't help but like? I honestly don't remember who recommended Mistborn to me, but several people did. I'm going to credit one of my friends from Girl Scouts with whom I had gone on a Boundary Waters canoe trip with as a teenager and have a very high regard for their taste in reading. As for an overdone trope, I don't think it's overdone, but Hollywood doesn't like it anymore.
Marriage.
Oddly, no one gets married in The Princess Bride. But The Princess Bride uses the trope well. It treats marriage as a serious undertaking, which will fundamentally change the couple's lives. Disney using marriage as a byword for happy endings is, of course, overly simplistic, though the wedding in Pirates of the Caribbean 3 is just perfect.
I'm a little busy at the moment.
Of course, marriage is not for everyone, and stories should include different kinds of people in different ways of life. But I will never complain about a good wedding. Taylor Clark asks, have you read Dark One by Brandon Sanderson? Not yet. Galvin asks, it's been a long journey, Miss Skirt, so let me pose you that question. What should we call you? Does Miss Skirt work for you, or would you prefer something else? My roommate and I find it hilarious that you call me Miss Skirt. My first name is Jackie, and I use it on my Reddit handle. However, Miss Skirt is totally fine. I've been called and answered to far worse. Galvin also asks, now that you have 1,000 subs, are you going to get new sprites? Josh Honey also asks, do you draw your own avatar that we love seeing in your videos? I currently draw my avatar myself, so creating new poses is just a matter of me having enough time and motivation. Of note, recently, reading Winter's Heart was enough to motivate me to draw a blush. Hiring someone to do a better job of drawing my avatars is on my wish list, but first is a new computer that will render videos faster so I have more time to polish them. Lastly, RCT Geek asks, what is the average airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
Look, are you insinuating something?
Thank you all again for your wonderful questions. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. And of course, if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you!